Imagine being 17 years old, completely paralyzed by polio, and hearing the doctor in the next room tell your mother, "Your boy will be dead by morning." Most people would give up, but Milton Erickson didn't. Instead, he used the only thing he could move on his body, which was his eyeballs. He will always look at the sunset, by defying the doctor's prediction that suggests he will soon die. However, Milton didn't die. Instead, trapped inside the prison of his own body, he began to develop a psychological superpower that would completely revolutionize modern therapy and the profound mastery of nonverbal communication. From a silent childhood to a silent prison, Milton Erickson's life was a masterclass in overcoming sensory limits. Born in 1901 in a Nevada mining camp, he grew up with a unique set of challenges. He was tone-deaf, colorblind, and severely dyslexic. To Milton, the world looked and sounded radically different than it did to everyone else. Because he couldn't rely on standard perception, his young mind naturally started looking for alternative ways to read people and understand his environment. Then, at age 17, disaster struck. The polio virus swept through his nervous system, leaving him completely paralyzed. He could not speak. He could barely move his eyes. It was during this terrifying period of forced isolation that his true education began. Sat in a specialized chair or lying in bed, Milton became a silent observer of his large family. With nothing to do but watch, he noticed something fascinating. People's words rarely matched their true intentions. He watched his sisters say yes to a chore while their shoulders slightly tensed in resistance. He noticed the micro-expressions of hesitation before someone spoke, the subtle shifts in breathing when someone was anxious, and the tiny vocal inflections that gave away a lie. Milton was learning the secret language of the unconscious mind. He realized that the human body is constantly speaking if you only know how to look. Using this intense focus, he began mentally visualizing his own muscles moving, mirroring the walking patterns of his baby sister. Through sheer cognitive force and mind-body awareness, he systematically retrained his own muscles and eventually walked again, completing a grueling 1,200-mile canoe trip across the Great Lakes to prove his physical recovery. The extraordinary doctor of the unconscious. As an adult, Erickson entered the medical field as a psychiatrist, and his ability to read nonverbal cues made him an instant legend. While mainstream psychology focused strictly on what patients said, Erickson focused entirely on what they did. He became famous for conversational hypnosis. He didn't need a swinging pocket watch or a dark room. He would simply sit with a patient, match the rhythm of their breathing, subtly mirror their posture, and speak in a cadence that bypassed their conscious defenses. If a severely resistant patient walked into his office with crossed arms and clenched jaws, Erickson wouldn't fight them. He would match their defensive posture, step into their worldview, and use a subtle tilt of his head or a shift in his tone of voice to guide them toward a breakthrough. Because 90% of human emotional expression happens beneath the surface, Erickson could solve in a single session what took other therapists years to unpack. Back in the 1950s, a colleague asked Dr. Milton Erickson to visit his aunt while Erickson was in Milwaukee for a speaking engagement. The aunt was a wealthy, 53-year-old woman who had fallen into a severe, reclusive depression. She lived completely alone in an enormous, dark Victorian house, had no family or friends nearby, was confined to a wheelchair, and was actively contemplating ending her life. When Erickson arrived, he didn't sit her down for a traditional therapy session. Instead, he asked her to give him a tour of her home. As they walked through the house, Erickson noticed that all the blinds were drawn. The rooms were dark and gloomy, and the entire atmosphere felt heavily depressed. However, the tour ended in a small sunroom that stood in stark contrast to the rest of the house. The room was flooded with light and packed with gorgeous, blooming African violets. It turned out that propagating these flowers from single-leaf cuttings was her only hobby and the one thing that still brought a spark of life to her eyes. He paid close attention to her movements, pace, and voice tones. Erickson gave her a simple task that didn't last for weeks. She returned to Erickson's office a completely transformed person. The crushing weight of her social anxiety was gone because the worst-case scenario had already happened, and it turned out to be completely harmless. The modern blind spot. A lesson for today. There is a vital lesson in Erickson's transformation for our fast-paced world today. We live in the busiest era of human history. We are constantly glued to glowing screens, rushing through packed schedules, and reducing our relationships to text messages, emails, and hurried status updates. Because our lives have become so frantic, we have developed a massive cultural blind spot. We have forgotten how to read the room. By rushing through our daily lives, we miss the slight drop in a partner's shoulders that signals burnout. We miss the micro flash of anxiety in a colleague's eyes during a meeting. We ignore the tight, defensive posture of a child trying to say they are okay. We are so consumed by the noise of words and notifications that we are completely deaf to the silent, non-verbal symphonies happening right in front of us. Milton Erickson was stripped of everything, yet he discovered a universe of meaning in a single blink of an eye. He proved that true connection doesn't happen through the loudness of our words, but through the depth of our attention. In a world that cannot stop talking, perhaps the greatest superpower we can reclaim from the great Milton Erickson is the lost art of truly watching, listening, and being present. If this story changed the way you see our world and the true subtle meaning behind people's actions and behaviors, stay with us as we uncover more on this channel. Like, share, and subscribe for the next chapter. Thank you.